Ancient Egypt's labor strike, when pyramid workers said enough. When you think of ancient Egypt, you probably imagine golden tombs, towering pyramids, and the divine rule of pharaohs. A land where the king's word was law and the people obeyed without question. But what if I told you that in this land of gods and monuments, the first recorded labor strike in human history took place? That's right. Thousands of years ago, long before unions, picket signs, or labor laws, a group of Egyptian workers put down their tools, walked off the job, and demanded better treatment. This isn't a modern story. This happened over 3,000 years ago, during the reign of Pharaoh Ramses III, and the way it unfolded is both shocking and inspiring. Welcome to ancient Egypt's labor strike, a powerful moment when ordinary workers stood up to the most powerful empire on earth. The year was around 1150 BCE, and the mighty Pharaoh Ramses III was at the height of his reign. He had built massive temples, expanded Egypt's influence, and spent enormous resources on grand construction projects, including the elaborately decorated tombs in the Valley of the Kings. These tombs weren't built by slaves, as some myths suggest, but by skilled laborers, artisans, stonemasons, and scribes who lived in a special village called Deir el-Medina. These men were Egypt's elite workers. They weren't poor farmers or prisoners. They were paid in rations, food, beer, oil, and supplies for their work. But as Ramses' reign dragged on, the empire faced financial strain. Wars, internal corruption, and a shrinking treasury began to squeeze the royal coffers, and eventually that squeeze hit the workers directly. The rations stopped coming. At first, there were delays. Then days turned into weeks. The men of Deir el-Medina were working without food to feed their families. They had been patient. They had been loyal. But hunger changes everything. And then something unprecedented happened. The workers walked out. They laid down their tools, left the royal tombs unfinished, and marched toward the temples demanding to be heard. It wasn't violent. It wasn't chaotic. It was organized, deliberate, and bold. They staged what historians today call a sit-in, at sacred temples no less, refusing to leave until their voices were acknowledged. In a society where the pharaoh was considered a living god, this was revolutionary. These workers weren't just defying a boss, they were challenging divine authority. They were saying that justice, fairness, and dignity mattered more than blind obedience. Scribes recorded the entire event on papyrus scrolls, which have survived to this day. They tell us how the workers refused to back down, how they confronted local officials, how they demanded the wages they were owed. At one point, they even said, "We are hungry. We have no clothes. We have no oil. We have nothing." Their protest worked. Shocked by the strike, the officials eventually gave in. The rations were delivered, the workers returned to their duties, but the message had been sent. Even in ancient times, the laboring class had power when they stood together. This labor strike wasn't a one-off act of rebellion. It marked a shift in how workers saw themselves. It laid the foundation for future generations who would stand up to kings, emperors, and corporate bosses alike. Think about it. Long before the idea of workers' rights, long before strikes became a global movement, a group of Egyptian tomb builders, forgotten by time, but now heroes in history, changed the game. Without unions, without lawyers, just with courage and solidarity. It's easy to think of ancient people as passive, ruled by gods, silenced by fear. But this story proves otherwise. These were real people facing real hardship who dared to speak truth to power. So, the next time you walk past a monument to the pharaohs, remember the workers, the ones who carved the walls, lifted the stones, and, when pushed too far, said enough.